Well, good morning. Here I am in the woods again. We had a few warm days and now we're back to this wintry spell, wintry weather, which is good because there aren't too many people about. People don't like the cold. I thought I'd try something a little bit different today. So what I've got is I don't have my big lens for photography, for bird photography and filming and so on. I've just got my Nikon Z6 with the 24-70, which I'm filming on now. But what I thought I'd do is a little while ago I did a video on bird.net, which is an application that you have on your phone which can identify birds from their calls, and I've really enjoyed using it. So the video I did a little while ago was just an overview introduction, but I thought maybe today I'd show you how it works in the field. But I've been using it a lot lately, and it's really improved my awareness of bird calls and bird sounds, and helped me to locate and find new species. So maybe we'll have a little look at, instead of not so much the visual today, but the auditory dimension. That we'll explore that a little bit today. But first of all, just before that, I thought I'd just tell you a little bit about some history. So the English worshipped the god Merd, an ancient Anglian god, and they hang offerings to Merd in the woods throughout the year. And I thought I'd just show you what this ancient tradition is like. So this is an offering to the god Merd, and we see it all over the open spaces and woodlands of England, where the English like to maintain the tradition and veneration for this ancient god. It's a wonderful tradition, and sometimes you see trees that are completely full of offerings in dainty little bags, adorning the trees and adorning the woods. There's a green woodpecker calling, adorning the woods to celebrate and acknowledge this wonderful English tradition. That tea is good. Yeah, so I just thought I'd talk a little bit about this app, BirdNet, which I've been using for a while now, and I found it's really opened up my perception to to bird sounds. I've always been able to, for decades, I've been able to recognise different bird calls, but really sort of, I mean, I can recognise something. I can recognise the more dramatic or unique sounds of birds. So for example, a green woodpecker, or a buzzard mewing, buzzard call, or something like that, or that kind of thing. I've always been able to kind of recognise the major species as a woodpecker drumming there. At this time of year, you get a lot of that. And of course the woodpeckers also have a call. That's the other thing about bird calls, is I think it's worth remembering, is that birds have different, the same bird has different calls, which can make it a little bit more challenging. But having this BirdNet app has really helped me to improve my ability to recognise different bird calls, and also it's made me sensitive. I'll tell you what. When I first started bird watching in the 80s, I went out with a friend, and I went with some binoculars, and I was amazed at his ability to recognise from a fairly fleeting glimpse of a bird flying through the air. He could recognise what that bird was, and I was amazed, because when you there's there is a green woodpecker for you, somewhere in that direction. But anyway, so yeah, he was able to recognise a bird visually from what is actually a relatively small small amount of information. You know, just a half a second of something flitting between the trees, and I was amazed by this, and so I sort of carried on bird watching and looking at bird books and learning more, and I realised that there's a lot of different things that come into play for recognising birds, and I mean, one of them is actually what you see, but there are other things like how the bird is flying, how the bird is moving, what the habitat is. So clearly, if you're in woodland, you know that does narrow it down the probability of what it's likely to be. If you're in you know, open heathland and all this sort of thing, different habitats, you know, wetlands and so on. Different habitats, you're likely to have different species. But the way birds move is very characteristic. You know, so a woodpecker flies like this. It sort of loops through the air, whereas a sparrowhawk goes like that. So. Sorry. Hello. No. Actually, I've just been disturbed by some people walking past, but this might be a good time to change. That green woodpecker's getting nearer. This might be a good time to change the battery in the camera. Full battery indicator showing now, so that's good. Yeah, so as I was saying, a woodpecker flies like this, and thrushes also, but a sparrowhawk just zooms, like often it just zooms in a sort of flat trajectory between the trees, and this is the way birds fly. It's not just the colour of the bird, the size of the bird, the shape of the bird, which often you don't get a chance to see those sort of specific characteristics for identification. You know, like you know, the colour. Often you don't see the colours of birds from a distance when they're flying quickly, or when they're simply at a distance, or when the light's not good, or whatever it is. But you can still recognise them often through the way that they move, the way that they fly, the way that they like the way a woodpecker comes up to. You get a tree trunk like this, and a woodpecker sort of comes up and lands like that. It sort of flies along, and it kind of comes like that onto a vertical branch. So, you know, if you see a bird coming along, you know, and landing on a horizontal branch, chances are it's not going to be a woodpecker. And this is just experience. You spend time out in nature, watching animals, watching birds, watching the way that they behave. You quite quickly develop the ability to identify them from not very much information, and I think the same is also true. So that happens in the visual dimension, and you just get better at it. You just get good. Sometimes I'm driving along the motorway and I can see a bird hovering, and I know that it's a kestrel. I see a bird sort of wheeling in a circle, and I know that it's a buzzard. You know, even though it might be a long way off, and you know, I'm also supposedly driving the car and watching the road, but at the same time. But so it is possible to improve your brain is can make up for or can utilise the information coming into your eyes, you know, and and work out what's going on. But what's interesting about the auditory side of things is that you can do, well, I've been finding recently with this app specifically, BirdNet, is that you can do the same with sounds as well. That, you know, I mean, you're listening to bird sounds. I mean, I'm listening to bird sounds with a fairly, well, a very busy road over that way, and also I'm listening to, you know, there are probably, I can probably hear about a dozen birds singing at the moment around me. And as I said before, they've all got different. Each bird has got several different calls very often. So, so it's, you know, it's actually quite difficult to identify bird sounds when you think about it. But once you know, again, it's spending a bit of time out in nature and concentrating on it, and then you start to find that you can actually identify specific species from a little bit of call, and I think it's just amazing to be able to see and hear what's going on around you. It just your perception just sort of widens out, and the experience of being in nature just is so much richer. So I'd advise you to give it a go. Give BirdNet a go and see how you get on. Try it out. But what I've found recently that I've been doing is I've kind of got to know the common bird, the common species calls and sounds. So if you discount, I can hear a robin up here. If you discount, I can hear a great tit as well. So you know, great tit, robin, blue tit, long-tailed tit, wren. There's a wren over here somewhere, I can hear. So if green woodpecker. So if you start to discount those common species, when you do hear something that's unfamiliar, that's when I get my BirdNet app out and think, right, let's see if we can find out what that is. And you do that a few times, and you can learn a new species, a new bird call, and you quickly get better at it. So I think it's great. I would recommend you give it a go. And it's free, and doesn't take up much resource on your phone. So so there you are.